Anger over the Michael Brown case is going global, with rallies breaking out in London. Crowds there are speaking out against a ruling in the United States not to indict the white police officer who killed the black teenager in Ferguson, Missouri earlier this year. We're going to cross later to RT UK, where they'll have a correspondent standing by. Actually, we can cross over there now. Our correspondent is standing there by Harry Fear there.
Well, the hundreds of London to Ferguson solidarity protesters have in the last few moments torn down the barriers of Parliament Square, which has of course been cordoned off by the Greater London Authority over the last couple of weeks. So this is significant in the context of the right to assemble and the situation of Parliament Square and protests here. And the messages from these protesters is that the killing of the American teen this August is paralleled with the killing of Mark Duggan here in August 2011. And the belief is that there is a systemic problem in both the UK and the US, that there is institutionalized racism in the police forces and by the state. And so protesters here, very impassioned, chanting, who killed Mark Duggan? The police killed Mark Duggan. Who killed Mike Brown? The police killed Mike Brown.
And Harry, as you're talking to me, we're showing live pictures of the scenes there in central London this evening. Tell us more about what protesters are saying about the link between what's happened in the US and the situation here in this country. Just expand on that a bit more if you can.
Well, the protesters believe that there is this parallel, as I mentioned, and they are, of course, vastly angered at the grand jury decision not to indict the police officer, the cop, who was responsible for the killing of Michael Brown. And actually, just behind me, the protesters are on the march, and we'll move with them. Their belief is that there must be reforms to the way that there is policing in London and in the UK in order to address this systemic problem, as they call it, of racism by the police. And earlier I spoke to Carol Dungan, the aunt of Mark Duggan, who was killed in summer 2011. You can listen to her comments now.
Enough is enough. As you can see, the police are murdering black people with impunity. We all know that the American police are very aggressive and are very trigger happy, but I'm afraid to say the British police are not much different. The institutional racism in this country is so ingrained, I don't even think they realise that they are racist themselves, but they are. We know Mark's death was a racist murder because after the police murdered Mark, they didn't even feel that there was a need for them to come and inform his parents that he'd been shot dead.
Well, the protesters weren't expecting to have a march through central London tonight, but they've taken the police by surprise. There are really, in comparison to normal policing operations, not enough police to police such impassioned and spontaneous demonstration through the streets of central London. We've been through Oxford Street towards Trafalgar Square, outside Charing Cross Police Station, and now, just moments ago, outside the UK Parliament. And now protesters have headed off down behind me. And in the words of one of the protest organisers, they believe that this institutional racism, this inequality and injustice against black people is as a result of, as they put it, black people being treated as third-class citizens. And they believe that this is a decades-old problem, both in the UK and in the US. And many in attendance of this demonstration here tonight say they have been witnesses to this kind of institutional racism on the part of the British police.
Well, Harry, just finally, just behind you, I can see some of those twisted barricades that have been broken down there behind you in Parliament Square. Is there a sense, though, despite the anger, that this could actually get more tense and perhaps violence tonight? Is there a danger of that?
Well, what's interesting is we haven't seen pronounced scuffles between protesters and police, but we have seen the tearing down of these symbolic and iconic barricades around Parliament Square. So certainly protesters chanting "Whose streets? Our streets" are sending a message that they feel right now vastly impassioned and vastly ready to speak out in this way, with this unified message, as I mentioned earlier, to send their message to the powers that be, if you will. We're obviously not expecting expecting central London to become Ferguson and to see the sorts of clashes that we've seen in the last few days in Missouri. But certainly in the next while, it's possible that this protest here in central London tonight may further escalate.
Harry